Now, I'll tell you, there's a man just waiting in the wings who wants to talk to us.
Yeah, we're going to bring on Jack Posobiec right now.
Yes.
And I think we're going
I'll give you my mic.
We're going to
I'll give
switch
you my
out.
mic, sir.
I'll stand over here. Welcome to
so
the
much.
show.
What's up, Paul? How are you?
Nice
RSBN.
to see you,
We
Jack.
love RSBN.
Welcome to RSBN. Yes.
Oh, it's always great to be on here.
The audience
the
loves you,
Grace and
Jack.
the whole team. It's always wonderful to be on.
Yeah, and listen, I'm sure our viewers have been keeping track of you. You've been all over the place. Between your recent interview with Tucker Carlson,
yes.
I know you did an event in New York with the Young Republican Club as well.
It was incredible.
Now you're here in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, your home state, right? Exactly. And what do you make of this whole crowd? What do you make of the enthusiasm right now?
It's incredible to see Trump get crowds like this. It still packs them in because this is a part of the country that I think J.D. Vance taps into as well, that obviously Trump speaks to. But I've been thinking it's very interesting when you think about the J.D. Vance versus Trump dynamic because, and Don Jr. has spoken about this, whereas the Trumps are from Fifth Avenue, man. They're from Manhattan, billionaire, New Yorkers. But they speak to the interests of the forgotten man and woman of this country. J.D. Vance, on the other hand, he is one of those people.
That's for sure.
He grew up that life. He grew up under the poverty line.
Exactly.
He grew up with less than nothing.
Right.
They had to beg to get a little bit of something in his family. Grew up, and obviously he's been very public with the story, a family that suffered horrific addiction now it was pre-fentanyl, but it was during the opioid crisis already, the initial heroin side of the opioid crisis, those deaths of despair, but also speaking to the rapid deindustrialization of the Midwest and places like here, right where we are here in the Rust Belt, places that were once thriving, with families that were once thriving, the manufacturing, the businesses, all of which has gone away because of what? Because of globalization.
That's
and it's something that these people intrinsically understand,
They
that
do.
J.D. Vance understands, and Donald Trump, even from his vantage point, understood. And I know you'll appreciate this, because I found there are even news reports all the way back in the 1990s, like a newspaper, and at the very end it'll say, and there was one other man who spoke out against NAFTA, was a real estate developer from New York City named Donald J. Trump.
Right, that's so true.
And he was the one man saying it all along.
He's been remarkably consistent going back 30, 40 years. You watch the interviews of Donald Trump from the 1980s with Larry King on CNN. He's railing against the deindustrialization of the Midwest. And it's states like Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin that will make or break this election. This is the most important state.
Well, and this is why it's called, it wasn't used to be called the Rust Belt, it was called the Steel Belt.
Exactly.
And now I don't know if people realize that.
Right. It's the old Steel Belt, the old manufacturing beating heart of American industry, and Trump stands for reviving it, and these people know firsthand. You know, Kamala Harris plays into identity politics, she plays into the race issues, the gender issues, but that's like a foreign language to these people.
Well, in the Rust Belt, people vote with their wallets.
Right, exactly.
Right? It's not, and
they're practical, they're common sense voters.
Your typical liberal will walk into a Harrisburg crowd, and I grew up 90 minutes from here, and they'll look at a crowd in Pennsylvania and say, oh, look at white rural rage and Christian nationalism and all this. I'm like, you walk around here, nobody cares. You know what they care about? They care about their families. They care about whether or not they can have food on the table. They want their farms to be able to get the food to market. That's what they care about. They will vote with their wallets. And that's what they see with them. That's why, by the way, the Mitt Romneys of the party and the Paul Ryans and the John McCains.
We don't like those types.
Who wanted, it was all war overseas, war in the Middle East, war with Russia. These guys, now look, I'll tell you something else about places like Pennsylvania and the Rust Belt. It's their sons and daughters that go off to fight.
Right.
It's their sons and daughters that say, if my country needs me, I'm going to throw that uniform on my back and I'll go.
That's exactly right.
They were sold a bill of goods in Iraq and Afghanistan for 20 years, and now they're finally saying, look, we did all that. When's it our turn?
Exactly.
When's it our turn to get something? That's why a Paul Ryan and a Mitt Romney and a McCain or anybody with the last name Bush is never going to play in this area.
They don't like those people. They never voted for them, and they never will. And it's also their sons and daughters who are devastated by the fentanyl epidemic, and that's brought on by the illegal aliens crossing the border, the tens of millions that have crossed over, not just under Biden, but going back under Obama and Bush, going back decades. These people know firsthand just how catastrophic our border situation is, speaking to other issues that really resonate with them, with the MAGA movement. But Jack, I want to ask you,
It's great, there's people coming.
fans
I
everywhere.
tell you, it's almost like a hometown
It
rally for me. So I've got people
They
coming
love
up.
Jack
and,
Posobiec. I want to ask you about Kamala Harris.
Sure.
First of all, we heard many pronunciations of her name. Kamala. What is it, Jack?
I go with, so the way I remember
You're
this
in
is-
D.C.,
So,
you know.
So
You
Charlie
should know
Kirk and I,
firsthand.
we do a show on Thursdays called Thought Crime.
Okay.
And this was like the A segment, the A block
Right.
of the show last week. And we always get in a lot of trouble for all those segments that we have on the show. And hi Patriot Takes. Hi Midas Touchers. And we got into this because
Right.
he was saying Kamala. And then other people said Kamala, but I said no. It's like the word comma, like you write a period and then a
Okay.
comma. So Kamala. And so the way to remember it is it rhymes with commie. So she's a commie.
There you go.
Kamala, Kamala. There you go.
go.
Commie, Kamala.
I like it.
But the other thing to think about too, here in Pennsylvania, we've been told reliable reporting, the front runners, all of the wind seems to be blowing in the direction of Josh Shapiro.
Yep.
Josh Shapiro. So his governor's mansion is you could walk to it from where we are right now.
Okay.
So Josh Shapiro's
Wow.
governor's mansion is literally right down the street here in Harrisburg. And so that may be one of the reasons that Donald Trump chose Harrisburg to be here to say, do you know something? You know little Josh Shapiro, only 5'3", by the way, folks. He's an angry little guy. He plays it off like he's a man of the people, but let me tell you something. He's an angry little man.
Very angry.
He doesn't care. And I grew up, my district was one district over from where he was a state rep.
Right.
And then he was my county commissioner. And let me tell you something. He goes up there, I care, I'm this, I'm that. He doesn't care about anything but himself. He's just like Kamala Harris
Just like
or Pete
Kamala.
Buttigieg or Barack Obama, one of these
Exactly.
just social climbers, doesn't actually want to do anything. And so tell the people of this state what you've done for them. Tell the people in Norristown, Pennsylvania, what you ever did for them, little Joshy. Tell the people of your district, tell the people in Montgomery County, what did you ever do other than use that as a resume, as a stepping stone to your next position, like, oh, by the way, you're doing right now.
It's so true, and I've spoken to so many Pennsylvania residents here today online beforehand, and they all can't stand the guy. They actually said she should pick him because he'll do even worse in Pennsylvania than if they don't pick him. Because listen, he's deeply unpopular in Pennsylvania. He's an opportunist, a social climber, just like Kamala Harris, just like Kamala. But Pennsylvania has gone to hell under his governorship. The manufacturing, the illegals, and he's done nothing for the Pennsylvania residents and the American people. So in that spirit, he's just like all the rest of the
Democrats.
Democrats.
Well, and the other thing too is that people got to understand that Josh Shapiro won so he's running for AG in 20 and then he ran for governor in 22. So by the way, he oversaw the election in 2020. So to anybody out there who's got questions about that, Josh Shapiro is the guy to ask.
Whoa, there you go.
But he did win, and I will tell you this, he did win because Pennsylvania, politically speaking, historically speaking, is known as a ticket splitter state.
Yeah.
So in ticket splitter states, usually you'll get the top of the ticket and then the number 2 on the ticket to split, or in this case, the number 3 when it came to 2020. So one of the reasons that Josh Shapiro won, I kid you not, was with Trump-Shapiro voters in 2020 when he ran for AG. And then he also picked up a lot of the Trump supporters in 2022. And again, that's speaking to that working class vote because like I said before, they vote with their wallet. And they thought that this guy would be good for jobs. Why? Because all the unions were backing him. But let me tell you something. If you're a Trump-Shapiro voter and Donald Trump is the guy he's against, there isn't a discussion. You're voting for Trump.
You're voting
so
Trump
all
all
of
the
those
way.
people that all of the DNC bean counters are looking at and saying, oh, well, we're going to have this many and this many. If we pick Shapiro, then he can win Pennsylvania. They're not looking into the actual metrics of how he won the state of Pennsylvania. When you look at those crosstabs, you realize that anyone with, an ounce of sense or an ounce of political understanding would know that a Trump-Shapiro voter is always going to pick Trump over Shapiro.
That's really interesting. And now they also might want to keep him in there because of the job he did in 2020 with the lack of transparency at the ballot box and everything else.
It was disgusting.
That went on.
He said when all of the ballots are counted that Joe Biden would be the winner. But he said that a week before the election with his buddy Jake.
It's amazing how that works, right, Jack?
It's amazing. It's an amazing thing. And so this is the project that they ran. They, him and Jake Tapper and all those guys, they've been working on this for a long time.
Right.
They want, all the CNN buddies.
Right.
They want to put Josh in there, and he's been a media creation.
Right.
By
Just
the way,
like Kamala.
Go look at 2020. He was on CNN like every single day. Kamala Harris is total mainstream media creation where, she's Brad and she's cool and we all like her. Well, wait a minute.
Cringe.
She was vice president for all these years.
So
What's she done?
She's done nothing. She was more unpopular than Biden up until that debate that was a disaster for him. Every single poll, that's the reason why they didn't swap him out.
Right.
And they waited this late into the game until CNN and the New York Times ultimately turned on him. And then obviously the near hit on President Trump's life. But the reason they waited was because she had less appeal, less charisma, less likability than Joe Biden, and they know it. So it's interesting how now all of a sudden you're seeing this whole drive by the media and by big tech to make her out to be like the second coming of Abraham Lincoln.
And more important, though, what we need to express is, and the last speaker here, Dave McCormick, spoke to it a little bit, this is the first Pennsylvania rally since someone took a shot at Donald Trump.
That's true.
Since, by the way, an incredible Pennsylvanian fire chief, Corey Carpatore, who lost his life defending his wife and daughter. The last words he ever said to his wife were "get down," and he covered them with his own body, took bullets that were intended for his wife and his child, and he took them in the back. That is, that's, for the Catholics out there, straight to heaven, no purgatory, you're
Absolutely.
good. You're good to go.
Straight to sainthood.
Straight to no question.
Right.
And the importance of that cannot be overstated. The fact that Donald Trump is here, it's been only 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
2.5 weeks. Not only is he right back to work, he held the entire RNC, he chose his vice president, incredible pick of J.D. Vance, and then, a generational pick, by the way.
Yeah.
And then is willing to come back to the very state where it happened, has said that he's willing to go back to Butler. This shows you that this is a candidate unlike an American, unlike any that we've ever seen before. And to face up to something like that, to have gone through it and arise the champion that he did,
it's
just
incredible.
Shows you that he's built of something that's just a little bit different.
A little bit different, and that is absolutely
true. Being built,
Jack.
I see Brick Suit coming up over here.
I know. I see him. He's always a mainstay at all these
the Brick Man himself,
rallies. Mr. Brick Suit,
the most solid man in America, because he's made a solid brick.
Yes. President Trump always singles him out, and that's the wall man. Jack, I know you're pressed for time. One last question for you, since you brought up Catholics, and I know President Trump was truthing earlier today about the Biden-Kamala Harris regime's war on Catholics. And Pennsylvania is a big state with a lot of Catholics.
Very Catholic state.
The whole Midwest and the whole Rust Belt as well.
Kamala Harris has been an anti-Catholic bigot since her days in the Senate, and there's no question. And I say this as a Catholic, that if she were to become president, I shudder to think of it, Catholics would experience persecution unlike that which we've seen for centuries.
Right.
You would have to go back to the Roman Empire to find levels of persecution of Catholics that we would see under Kamala Harris.
They'd have to return underground.
She was going after, get the ichthyos back out again,
exactly.
and the fish symbol would make half the fish, and the guy on the beach makes the other half. She was going after the Knights of Columbus. I'm a Knight of Columbus, by the way.
I am too.
The Knights of Columbus are like the guys who do the blood drives. We deliver mulch to the the elderly folks in the parish.
Exactly.
We do the coffee and donuts.
And she labels them like as domestic terrorists and extremist
This is a service
group.
organization.
I know, it's a community service, religious spiritual formation.
And she was
group.
labeling it an extremist organization using ridiculous talking points from the totally discredited and disgraced Southern Poverty Law Center.
Right.
And to go after Catholics and say that someone couldn't be a justice in this country because of their faith. But the same administration that she's now a part of that had Merrick Garland running agents and sources and informants
against
in traditional Catholic
Latin
Mass
in
services.
D.C. And they're basically illegal now in D.C. And that's something that's not talked about as much.
And I absolutely shudder to understand the depravity and the depths of what she would do if she completely unleashed Merrick Garland and his running feral dogs there at the Department of Justice.
And they would have deep ties to the Vatican too. Who knows?
There's no
limits to what they would be doing.
that a Catholic could ever, in good conscience, vote for Kamala Harris.
And of course, Donald Trump appointed J.D. Vance, who is a convert to Catholicism and has really embraced the Catholic faith and has been a great example and role model for so many Catholics, especially in this Rust Belt area of the country. But Jack, it's always a pleasure speaking to you. Keep up the great work. And obviously, we got to win Pennsylvania for President Trump.
We're going to win Pennsylvania.
We got to turn out those Catholics for President Trump as well.
Catholics for Trump.
And, we got to keep the movement alive, and we got to get him over the finish line. too big to rig.
Amen. Too big to rig.
Thank you so much, Jack.
Was that good? Did
Yes,
that work?
absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you, Jack.
Shoes right
That
there.
was
got the
that was
shoes.
everything.